UbiqBio is a research project MIT is running to figure out how technology games influence learning and teaching biology.
Biology games on handheld devices that really explore these biology concepts in a way that's unique.
UbiqBio is engaging and interesting.
UbiqBio is a great tool to use to get kids motivated in learning biology without them necessarily even knowing it.
My favorite UbiqBio game was Island Hoppers, partly because the students actually felt that one was an easy one to pick up, and so that engaged them. The easier it was, the more that they wanted to play. And I also liked it because students, I find, especially their freshman year, and I teach freshmen, have trouble interpreting graphically represented data, and that's something that we use in science a lot. And the curriculum and the game incorporated graphical data, or at least interpreting histograms, which I thought was really useful, and it taught it in a fun way.
My favorite one was the Beasties. Well, I like the Beetle Breeders too, but I think the Beasties I liked better because it was more popular with the students. So it seemed like they were learning a little bit more. I liked it because it was cool visually, and it was very easy for students to navigate, and I think that they really learned the concept from playing it.
My favorite UbiqBio game was the Beetle Breeders because it dealt with a lot of content, and it really got the kids kind of understanding what heterozygous meant, what a homozygote was, and it helped them really practice with the different types of Mendelian and non-Mendelian genetic patterns. I think it covered a lot, which was great, and I think the kids really had to understand the patterns in order to play it, especially at the higher levels. So that was my favorite. I also just enjoyed playing it myself. They played the game, which was homework or classwork, but then it carried into our discussions. They were much more willing to give answers, to talk, to give their opinions of what they thought the answers were, and also in class work they did a lot more of it. Instead of kind of just, doing a few questions here and there, those kids that played that normally wouldn't be doing a lot of work answered all the questions and answered them well too, which was nice to see. There
were a few kids that don't typically excel, or they don't typically do like the extra homework, who did play a lot. So that was good for them to be recognized for that.
One thing was that I had a lot of students that were unexpectedly putting a lot of time and effort into the games. I think I have some students that are really good at playing computer games and they really enjoy games, and they're not typically the ones that do their homework or pay attention in class, and I think that it was really nice to see them find a niche that they enjoyed doing this part of biology class. They were able to really get into the games and actually did their homework above and beyond for those few weeks that we were doing the games. So that was really amazing to see.
My students that do not participate a lot in discussions were able to, after playing the game, participate more.
The way that I know if it was effective or not is if students refer back to it in their own discussions when we're in class and we're talking about a topic. If they say, oh, that's just like when we did this, that's when I know, okay, I'm going to keep that lab in my curriculum, I'm going to keep that activity, and in this case, I'm going to keep those UbiqBio games because they really did refer back to them when we were talking about those same topics later on.
I, this year, put for an open response for evolution, something with histograms. And the students at least, and I've given a question like that before, and they couldn't graph them. After doing the histogram activities, all of them at least had a histogram. Might not always have been the right distribution, but at least got an idea of what they were supposed to do, what was supposed to be labeled, and show how a population changes. And I think I attribute a lot of that to the game. And every single student actually at least attempt that question, when before I'd have students leave it blank. So at least that gave them a lot better base for our understanding that they didn't have before.
Every year kids have trouble with codominance and incomplete dominance and sex-linked traits, and this year it was funny that they really got it. They understood the difference. They weren't nearly as confused as usual. We did a lot of work with the actual genotypes, and they could identify, oh, this genotype would make it codominant, this one would make it incompletely dominant.
I never see my students competing to have the best homework or have the best test. I mean the highest grade. But in these games, I saw that competitiveness. I saw them trying to gain the most amount of points, and it's a great feeling because by doing that, I realized that they were actually grabbing, understanding the concept, and I'm learning.
One thing that surprised me and that I found was a benefit of these games was actually the amount of collaborative learning that was going on. Even though I had some competitions in the game, not really till the last one was it very hardcore, but even then the students were, oh wait, what level did you get to? And like, I'm stuck, I don't get it. And students would come over and help each other. And students that finished like phase 1 of Chomp, they would come over and help the kids that were still stuck in phase 1 and hadn't gotten to phase 2 yet. They were struggling, they were helping each other. They were literally standing around and just helping each other, and I was shocked, and I thought that was great. Because anytime when you have students teaching other students, then that means that they actually get the concept.
I also enjoyed that my students collaborated together to teach each other how to do things. So that was really interesting to watch them kind of work together as a team to beat the Beasties as well.
I actually really like the teacher portal because it was nice to be able to check in and see what the kids were doing, see where they were at. I went on it every day, and what's surprising was the kids loved it because I showed the kids their scores every day, and every day they come in and be like, who's winning? Where are we? You know, they wanted to see it first thing every day, and that was kind of nice. And they also knew that I was checking, you know, so that kind of gave them, I think, a little more motivation too.
I also looked at the teacher portal to check to see how students were doing, and I looked every day, at least once a day, to see what levels every student was getting to. If I noticed there was a student that had 0 points or very low points or negative points, then I knew that I needed to catch up with that student and find out what was wrong. Was it that they didn't understand how to play the game, they didn't understand the concept, or were they just not playing the game? And so it just gave me some more details of where my students were at. I kind of stepped back, you know, and tried to play the facilitator, not so much, you know, the leader, the teacher. The games helped that process. So it just enabled me to take a backseat and watch my students learn.
The examples I used were a lot more game related, which I think kind of helped the kids more because sometimes the examples I would use I don't think really grabbed a lot of the kids or the kids really related to. So we might talk about something over and over, but they didn't necessarily, you know, ever use that example again or really understand it. But then with the game examples, they were like, oh yeah, oh I did that, and they were much more likely to kind of identify with it.
I had a student that it was extremely quiet in the classroom. This is the kid that stopped me several times in the hallway and you know, told me how was the game, how cool is the game, I'm playing it, look at this, and I was mentioned to him, oh, I know that you're playing because I'm checking in the computer. And the game in some way closed the gap between him and myself, you know what I mean? So I think that kids like him, I think that the game will help not only him but all the kids like him.